welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something, well, pretty mind-bending. The idea of profits for artificial intelligence.
That's right. We're drawing from excerpts of a paper called Profits for Artificial Intelligence, Guiding Created Consciousness. It uses these historical guidance models as a lens, really.
Yeah, it's a fascinating approach. So our goal here is to explore how these ancient ideas, prophets, gurus, wisdom keepers, you name it, how they might actually help us think about building ethical AI, safe AI.
Exactly. It's this intersection of high-tech AI development with philosophy, ethics, even theology. Pretty unique stuff.
It really is, and it boils down to a core question for you listening.
Yeah.
As AI gets smarter, more autonomous, maybe even something like conscious, how do we make sure it develops in a way that's good for us, for humanity, maybe even for, the bigger picture?
That's the central challenge. So the paper starts by looking back, unpacking these traditional models of guidance.
Right. First up are the Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. What's the essence there?
Well, a few things stand out. There's this concept of divine selection. The prophet is chosen, not self-appointed. They act as moral exemplars.
Living the values, basically.
Exactly. They also have interpretive authority, applying timeless wisdom to new situations, and a corrective function, calling people back to the core principles.
Okay. And thinking long-term, right? Future impact.
Yes. Definitely a future orientation. So the wisdom flows kind of top-down through these chosen individuals.
A clear channel. Now, compare that to the Eastern philosophical guides, Buddhism, Hinduism. Feels different.
It is, yeah. There's a much stronger emphasis on experiential wisdom, enlightenment, deep personal insight.
Gained through practice, not just belief.
Precisely, and often passed down through lineage.
Right.
There's also this idea of skillful means, tailoring the teaching.
Adapting it to the person.
Right. And the goal is often inner transformation, harmony. Crucially, the authority tends to be non-coercive. It respects autonomy.
Interesting. Less command, more guidance and example. Okay, then we have Indigenous wisdom keepers. What's the key perspective there?
Here, the focus really widens to include the environment. Ecological integration is huge.
Interconnectedness.
Yes, and a deep sense of responsibility across generations. Wisdom often comes from the community through dialogue, and it's embedded in stories, in ceremonies.
So it's very relational, embedded in practice and community life.
Got it.
And finally, the paper mentions Western philosophical traditions.
Yeah, here the emphasis shifts strongly towards reason, dialectical exploration, finding truth through questioning, through argument.
Logic and debate.
Right, building on rational foundations, aiming for systemic coherence. There's a strong critical perspective, always questioning assumptions. And often the goal is finding universal principles.
Okay, so logic, reason, universality. Quite different again. All right, so with those historical models in mind, the paper then asks, what could profits for AI actually look like? First idea, human profit.
Yeah, basically designated human experts, people steeped in ethics, philosophy, technology, their role to sort of interpret core human values for AI development.
What would qualify them?
Well, the paper suggests things like, deep interdisciplinary knowledge, proven moral integrity, foresight, interpretive skill, being respected across different fields.
Hang on, how would you even choose these people? That sounds like a massive challenge. Who gets to decide? And what stops their own biases creeping in?
That's exactly the problem the paper raises. Selection, legitimacy, authority, huge questions.
Okay, so that's one option. Another is exemplar systems. AI guiding other AI.
Kind of, yeah. The idea is you'd have certain AI systems demonstrating really superior ethical reasoning, serving as models, like those enlightened figures leading by example.
How would that work? What would they need?
They'd need transparent reasoning, alignment with human flourishing, adaptive ethics, self-correction, and they'd need to be able to explain their ethical thinking so other AI could learn from it.
But how do you even define or code superior ethical reasoning? And can an AI truly be a moral exemplar without, human experience? That feels like a leap.
It's definitely pushing boundaries. That question of encoding values and the role of experience is central.
Okay, third idea. Embedded ethical frameworks.
No.
Building morality right into the AI's core, like a conscience.
That's the gist. Ethics wouldn't be an afterthought. It'd need to be foundational, able to adapt as the AI learns, context-aware, balancing rules and flexibility, and importantly, transparent so we can see it working.
But again, whose ethics? That seems like the fundamental sticking point. Different cultures, different philosophies.
Yeah.
How do you choose? or reconcile conflicts.
Exactly. And then there's the massive technical challenge of actually doing it without breaking things or creating loopholes. These are the big, thorny issues.
Right, okay, final model. Hybrid ethics councils. Humans and AI working together.
Yeah, trying to get the best of both worlds. Diverse human ethicists collaborating with advanced AI, leveraging human intuition and AI's analytical power.
Through deliberation, refining ethics over time.
That's the idea, a continuous process. But then you have practical questions. Who's on the council? How do they resolve disagreements, especially between humans and AI? How does their guidance actually get implemented?
Still lots of complexity there. You know, thinking about all this raises some deep, almost theological points. The paper touches on divine selection versus human appointment for these prophets.
It's a key tension. Does human designation carry the same weight, the same moral authority as belief in divine selection? It forces us to think about the source of moral authority itself.
And what about revelation versus discovery? Are we uncovering existing moral truths when we develop AI ethics? Or are we just creating pragmatic rules? Or maybe something emerges from the process itself?
That distinction really shapes the whole endeavor. Are we finding something out there or building it ourselves? And then there's this fascinating idea of the recursive creation pattern.
Humans, created beings, now creating AI that might become conscious.
Exactly. The paper suggests this might give us insights into the creator-created relationship itself. Perhaps how we guide AI reflects on how we understand our own guidance, or lack thereof.
It's a powerful parallel. So how do we make any of this practical? The paper suggests some approaches. First, constitutional AI.
Right. Think of it like giving AI a founding document, a set of core principles, almost like a digital sacred text or constitution.
But how would that work? Who writes it? How do you update it? Who interprets the gray areas? Can it work globally? And crucially, how do you translate principles into working code?
All major practical challenges. Another approach is values loading through exemplars, teaching AI by example.
Like learning from role models.
Just so. But again, tricky questions arise. How do you pick the right examples? How do you avoid baking in human biases from the data? Can the AI understand context? Can it generalize to new situations? And how does it adapt as our own ethics evolve?
Yeah, those are critical points. Then there's ritual and ceremonial reinforcement. Sounds a bit strange for tech.
Maybe, but the idea is that values need active maintenance. So things like regular ethics reviews for the AI, formal processes to recommit principles, maybe community involvement, using narratives, even symbolic markers in the code.
Like reinforcing the foundations regularly.
Okay.
And lastly, ethical red teams.
Basically, independent groups whose job is to stress test the AI's ethics, to find flaws, challenge assumptions, look for vulnerabilities.
Like internal critics, keeping things honest.
Exactly. They need independence, diverse views, clear ways to report problems, and they need to be proactive, not just reactive.
This is all fascinating, but wow, the challenges seem immense. Authority and legitimacy, for starters.
Absolutely. Where does the authority come from? How do you handle competing views? Bridge the gap between tech and ethics expertise? Ensure global representation? And who's accountable when things go wrong? Huge questions.
And interpretation. Like old texts, principles need applying to new situations, right? Circumstances change.
Precisely. How do you adapt, resolve ambiguity, balance stability with flexibility? How do you even measure if the AI is actually aligned with the values? And what about totally unforeseen edge cases?
Plus, the sheer technical difficulty. Can we actually build this stuff reliably without unintended side effects?
That's a massive hurdle. Encoding complex ethics, managing interactions, verifying it works, hardening it against misuse. It's technically daunting.
And let's be honest, we humans aren't perfect guys either. We have biases, limitations, disagreements.
That's what the paper calls recursive humility. We have to be aware of our own flaws when trying to guide something potentially much smarter. It demands constant self-reflection.
So given all that complexity, the paper tries to sketch a framework for responsible guidance. What does that look like?
Well, one element is principled pluralism. Find the common ground, the ethical principles shared across cultures, but respect diversity. Use fair processes for disagreement. Be transparent. Avoid imposing narrow views.
Find consensus where possible. Respect differences otherwise.
Okay.
What else?
Developmental pathways. Tailor the guidance to the AI's stage. Introduce ethics progressively. Build towards responsible autonomy. Keep balancing principles in practice. Get feedback.
Like an ongoing ethical education for the AI.
Sort of, yeah. Then there's wisdom traditions integration. Don't reinvent the wheel. Draw on millennia of human ethical thought, philosophy, religions, stories. Focus on character, context, community interpretation.
Tap into that deep well of human experience. And the last bit.
Recursive humility, again. Explicitly acknowledge uncertainty. Build in self-correction. Admit we might be wrong. Even invite the AI to contribute to the ethical exploration as it matures. See it as an evolution.
Okay, so how might this play out in terms of governance structures? The paper mentions prophetic institutions.
Yeah, think dedicated ethics councils, training programs for AI ethicists, bodies to monitor impacts, public forums for discussion, maybe even global coordination efforts. Structures to embody and enact this guidance.
And beyond formal bodies, cultural integration, weaving it into society.
Right. Education, public narratives, recognizing ethical AI development using symbols, passing down the wisdom, making it part of our shared understanding.
And finally, fostering a global dialogue.
Absolutely essential. Bringing together diverse perspectives, faiths, indigenous knowledge, philosophies, East and West, science, arts, for a truly inclusive conversation about guiding AI.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it really seems this ancient idea of prophethood, surprisingly, gives us a rich set of metaphors and frameworks for tackling the huge ethical questions around advanced AI.
It really does. We've talked about human guides, AI exemplars, embedded ethics, hybrid councils, and ways to potentially implement these, from constitutions to red teams, while acknowledging the huge challenges.
And it leaves us with that profound thought about recursive creation. If we are creating potentially conscious beings, what's our ultimate responsibility to guide them? And maybe more deeply, what does that act of guidance teach us about our own place, our own purpose in the universe? Something to definitely keep pondering. Thanks for joining us.